Hey, hello, people. This video will be different from my usual videos because in this video we are not making a new doll, but rather we making new clothes and accessory for an already existing doll. In this case, it will be Lilou. There are three reasons why I'm doing this. First one is that one of the appeal of having a ball jointed doll is that you can dress them up. Before I had a ball jointed doll, I always imagined what it would be like to have a large collection of clothes for her to dress her in, and now that I have one, I can make this dream a reality. The problem is, I don't have a large collection of clothes. All the clothing that I made it for a specific doll. And if I wanted to dress my doll up in different clothing, some of these dolls have to be naked, and I don't want them to be naked. And this is why I'm making more clothing, simply to fill my clothing collection. The second reason is to simply practicing sewing. This is also the reason why I try to make things that I haven't made before. The last reason is that I made Lilou so many tattoos, but then I gave her a sweater that covers them up. And I thought that the reason was because she is a comic book character, and if I had to make her an outfit that shows all her tattoos, it would be very difficult to constantly draw her because I would also have to constantly draw her tattoos. But given that in this case I make clothing for her doll version, not for her comic book version, I don't really have that problem. And that's why I want to make clothing that actually shows her arms so I can display her tattoos. So naturally, the first clothing item that I made was another long sleeve sweater that also covers up her tattoos. I'm very smart, okay? See, the reason why I made the sweater is because I really like the shadow high sweater and I wanted to create something similar for Lilou. I thought she looks very cute in it. I traced the pattern from the shadow high sweater onto a piece of paper. I made a photo out of it and scaled it up. I made a pattern in Procreate and I hope that it will fit my doll Lilou. I printed it out and cut it out, and then I traced it on an old fabric that I have from an old sweater because I wanted to make a mock-up first. I made the mock-up and I made a bit of a mistake there, but it's okay because it's just a mock-up. And I put it on Lilou and it fits her, and I could continue with this pattern to make her sweater up. I used the same pattern and traced it on fabric that I actually wanted to use for a sweater or hoodie because I also gave the sweater a hood. Just like the Shadow High hoodie, I also wanted this hoodie to have a graphic design. So I designed this character in Procreate who is a dog because Lilou likes dog. It's also a girl dog, you can tell by the fact that it has eyelashes. You know, that's how gender works in the cartoon world. Unless we are talking about SpongeBob. He breaks gender norms in the cartoon world. He's such a gender non-conforming icon. I run into a problem when I try to remove the negative space from the vinyl sheet. It was very difficult removing it without tearing away some of the details that were meant to stay on. This is the reason why she's missing some of her teeth. She looks a bit like she got into a fight and all her teeth got knocked out. But she still stays positive. This is why she still has a peace sign, okay? Before I make the new clothing item, we go a bit on a detour. Obviously, I try to grow my clothing collection, but that also means that I have a lot of clothing items that need some organizing. This is why I sculpted some hangers and wanted to print them on my filament printer. Lately, my filament printer has a bit of problems with the print sticking on the build plate, so I decided to use this method that I have seen other people use, and that is using a glue stick to basically help the prints adhere to the build plate. So I used my limited edition Sonic the Hedgehog Uhu glue stick to make the build plate more stickier. And I have to say it worked really well, too well. It was very difficult removing them from the build plate. So I made these hangers in Blender, but I wanted to learn a new type of program. These programs are usually used to make, I don't know what to call it, CAD file, CAD files, those type of programs. I chose the program Shaper or Sharper 3D on iPad, and my god, working with this program was such a pain. It made me so mad, oh my god, it was so difficult working with it. It probably is because I'm not used to it, but nothing was very intuitive about this program. Maybe it has also to do that I'm using the free version or something. Maybe the pro version is easier to use, I have no idea. I managed to make some hangers and I actually like them more than the ones I made in Blender. Back to making clothing. Obviously, the original plan was to make clothing that actually shows Lilou's arms. So I thought about what kind of clothes I could make her that has short sleeves. And I decided to make her a baseball shirt. For that, I modified the pattern I make for a sweater and I created this logo that is basically her name in this style that looks similar to the logos you find on a baseball shirt. I printed the pattern, cut them out, and traced them on this vinyl fabric. I sewed together the seam allowance and then I cut out the logo with my Cricut machine. And then I ironed it onto the pieces of the shirt. I ironed on these stripes onto the sleeves, but they were a bit too short, but I thought that as soon as I sew it together, it will not be noticeable, and I was right about that. And then I sewed everything together, and with that I was done with her baseball shirt. However, I didn't make any buttons because I wanted to keep it simple. I thought this shirt would also look good on Alicia, so I made her one too. The next thing I made wasn't a clothing item but an accessory. I made her a backpack. For that, once again, I made a pattern in Procreate and printed it out. I cut it out and traced it onto this red pleather fabric. I cut out all the pieces and I also will use this black zipper and this black ribbon to make this backpack. I sewed on the zipper onto the top part of the backpack. I attached this metal thing for the zipper, the pull thing, I don't know what's called. After that, I sewed together the ends to make it easier to sew on the side pieces. And that's exactly what I did next. I pinned one of the front pieces onto the zipper piece to sew them together. I sewed together the backpack strap with the black ribbon. I sewed them onto the back piece. I sewed the bottom piece to the back piece with black ribbon in between. And then I pinned the back piece onto the rest of the backpack and then sew everything together. Using the same method, I made a smaller version, but without the straps. I sewed and glued on the smaller bag onto the backpack. I cut out some cardboard and glued it inside the backpack to give the backpack more structure. With my Cricut machine, I once again cut out the Wolf Girl logo so I can attach it onto the backpack. However, I wasn't satisfied with the size and later switched it out for a bigger size and used the smaller one that I made for something else. The front part of the backpack looked empty, therefore I attached this paw design onto it. I also decided to cut out a bigger cardboard piece for the front to give it a better shape. And with that, I was done with the backpack and I really like it. I think from all the things that I made, I'm the most proudest of the backpack. So I made her 2 tops, so I decided the next thing I wanted to do is making her some pants. For that, I used her old pants and put them on a piece of A4 paper and make a photo. I imported this photo in Procreate and scaled it so I can trace it to make a pattern. I wanted to make a very specific type of pants and I thought that it must be very easy if you already know how to make pants. But I kind of forgot what they were called and I had to search again the name of these pants, and apparently they are called dungarees. I never heard that word in my entire life. And I was so perplexed. Like, there's no way I never heard someone say the name of these pants, right? I thought there's probably a different name for these pants that I actually have heard before, but I just forgot. But I was doubtful about it. I really thought I maybe never heard what these pants are called. But then I put these pants on Lilou and I looked at her and I was like, oh, she looks so cute in her overalls. And then I was like, oh, overalls. I usually call these pants overalls. So we are making, I guess, overalls or dungarees. I'm not sure. I made patterns in Procreate and I, as always, printed them out, cut them out, and traced them on this denim fabric, the same that I use for Venus McFly Traps pants. These patterns are just like my usual pants pattern, except with an added trapezoid pattern piece for the front of the overalls or dungarees. For the belt loops and the straps, I just sewed together this very long piece of fabric. I never showed how I made pockets. I usually use this piece of fabric and sew this together and then flip it, so I have a nice edge. Then I use another piece of fabric and sew it on to the pants, and so I create a pocket. And you could technically close this pocket by sewing them together, but I usually don't do it because, they don't necessarily need to have this function. But if I want to, I could at any given moment just sew these two pockets together. One pocket always turns out better than the other. I sew together the pants as I usually do, with some minor changes. One of these changes is that I sew together the front part of the pants where usually the zipper is, but in this case the zipper will be on the side instead of the front. And of course I also added the trapezoid piece onto the pants. I use once again the sample back clips for the closure for the overalls. I really thought when I bought them that I will not have any use for them, because I bought them for different projects, but apparently I use them a lot. I thought the pants were a bit too simple and uninteresting, so I wanted to add some graphic design onto it. I decided to make another Wolf Girl logo because I decided at this point that Wolf Girl is some type of fashion brand existing in their universe. And I thought that Lilou really liked this fashion brand because she likes dogs and therefore she also likes wolves. And obviously a lot of the fashion pieces have wolf theme because, the fashion brand is called Wolf Girl. But before we continue with the pants, we are going on another detour. So I made some hangers, so that means I obviously also need a clothing rack. So I sculpted a clothing rack, this time in Blender, and printed it out with my filament printer, and then tried to glue everything together, which was very difficult. I had to use a combination of super glue, hot glue, and resin in order to put this clothing rack together. It's very flimsy, but it's good enough for now. Back to the pants. So I ironed on the graphic design onto the pants. I made a bit of a mistake and I melted it a bit too much and it moved around, it shifted around, and it's not exactly the way I envisioned it, but I'm okay with it. However, I thought even after ironing on the graphic design, the pants felt a bit too empty, so I created these buttons design and glued them on. I also used this Wolf Girl design that I made for the backpack but thought was too small. I obviously removed it and used that now on the pants to make the pants look more interesting. I thought these pants were still too empty, so I made a photo and imported it to Procreate to make a mock-up so I can add different designs onto the pants to see if I like it and then recreate it in real life. So I did exactly that, but I also added more design because the glitter iron on vinyl just arrived, so I wanted to use it on the pants as well. You see these glitter bones, the red ones? I actually placed it somewhere else before on the pants. I actually placed it very close to her crotch area, but I didn't like it. Something about things being too close to the crotch area is weird to me, probably because there's your private area and you don't want to draw attention to that. And it really bothers me, so I decided to use acetone to remove it. and it worked. However, it kind of left still some residue onto the fabric, and the fabric in this area got a bit distressed. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but if you do iron it on a place that you did not like, you can try to remove it with acetone. Maybe there's a different way to remove it, but I did use acetone. Remember the mock-up that I made for her sweater? I used that and cut off the sleeves and also cut off the bottom. And I decided to iron on a graphic design, the same for her sweater, but this time in 2 colors and in glitter. And yes, once again, her teeth didn't make it, but she still stays positive. I also tried to distress it a bit so the rough edges look intentional. Since Wolfgirl is a fashion brand now, and Lilou clearly likes to shop there, she obviously needs some shopping bags. So I designed some fashion bags in Procreate and printed them out and glued them together with my limited edition Sonic the Hedgehog's Uhu glue stick, the Amy and Tails version. And I was struggling for some reason. This was meant to be a very easy craft. Why am I struggling? After I was done with the shopping bags, I really had to think what else I could make her, and I thought, well, she has a backpack, so I should make something that could be put inside the backpack, right? So I decided to make her a wallet, and I never made a wallet before, so I really had to figure out the way to make that, and I don't know how to explain it, how I did it. Maybe next time I explain it better. Obviously, I also put a Wolfgirl logo on this wallet because I thought it's like, you know, when you buy a new bag, oftentimes they do come with a wallet, and I thought, oh, Lilou bought this backpack and it also had this wallet included, and that's why they have the same design. But that's not the only thing I wanted to make for her that would fit in her backpack. I also decided to make a lollipop and a Switch 2. Now I don't have a Switch 2, but that doesn't mean Lilou can have one, right? I only have the Switch 1. I decided to paint the Switch red instead of its actual color because I couldn't figure out a way to make the Switch logo on the back, and that's why I thought maybe the reason why you can't see it is because Lilou put some type of skin onto her Switch, and that's why the Switch is red, and that's why you cannot see the logo. The screen of the Switch was a bit difficult. I wanted it obviously to be glossy, and so I decided to put resin on it, but I did not like the result. I later decided to chromify it, but I also did not like that. I also made her some shoes. I made them the same way I made Alicia's shoes. And if you want to know how I made them, just watch Alicia's video. It's my least viewed video. You all don't appreciate women with abs? Is that what it is? That's very sad. Is it because I said it wrong? I think you say, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And I think I said it wrong in this video. Is that the reason why you didn't watch it? I don't know. Is it because the thumbnail is kinda ugly? It's not my best thumbnail. I could change it, but I'm lazy. Anyways, I think we are done, and here's everything I made in this video. Oh look, Lilou and Alicia are twinning. I have a question for you. Do you play with your dolls? And I don't mean dressing them up or making photos. Like, I mean how children would play with their dolls, like storylines and so on. I don't, but I wish I would. And it has nothing to do with me feeling ashamed or something like that. Like, oh, I'm an adult, I cannot play with dolls. Like, no, I don't care. It has more to do with that I can't, like, even if I wanted to. There's something that stops me from doing it, like prevents me from doing it. I don't know what. I just don't feel like it. But I wish I could. When I was a kid, I was obsessed with Sonic the Hedgehog, and I wish there were Sonic the Hedgehog dolls, but they didn't exist. There were Sonic the Hedgehog figures, but they weren't available to me. So what I did instead was searching for images of the characters and printed them out and cut them out, and I would play with these cutouts. And I find it quite funny that I nowadays also print my dolls, but this time they're in 3D. I nowadays have the ability to make any doll that comes to my mind, and I find that so amazing, you know? I wish I had this ability as a kid, but obviously I didn't. And that is what kind of frustrates me, you know? I have now the ability to make any dolls and any accessory and any clothing that I want, but I don't find joy in playing with dolls as I used to when I was a kid. But as a kid, I had so much joy playing with my dolls, but I didn't have the ability to make any doll that I ever wanted. This is why I hope one day I find the joy in playing with dolls again, the same way I did as a kid. When I played with my dolls, there was always this moment where I was like, man, I wish I had this specific accessory, but I didn't. And now I can just make it, but at the same time, I don't play with my dolls anymore. It sucks. I decided to make some last minute changes to the Switch. I used this vinyl same vinyl I used to iron things on to fabric, and cut this screen out and just glued it on. The chromified screen just annoyed me. And that's it. Bye.